want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boy, you look with the cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Feet in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it. Like a disease, bring them to their knees. They fit there to see. Just like a weed, spread into the streets. It's time to make them bleed. 'Cause we just want retribution. Let's go light up the darkness. Make true of an empty promise. Flip cards into weak and harmless. Take to the streets and turn them to a mosh pit. 'Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Feed like a disease, bring them to their knees. They fit there to see. Just like a weed, spread into the streets. It's time to make them bleed. 'Cause we want retribution. 'Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boy, you look with the cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Feet in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it. Like a disease, bring them to their knees. They fit there to see. Just like a weed, spread into the streets. It's time to make them bleed. 'Cause we just want retribution. Let's go light up the darkness. Make true of an empty promise. Flip cards into weak and harmless. Take to the streets and turn them to a mosh pit. 'Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Feed like a disease, bring them to their knees. They fit there to see.
Hey, welcome to another episode of After the Buzzer Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I have my man, Marvin Orange, Mr. Basketball himself, the Hall of Fame. How you doing, Marv?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. Great to be
Hey,
here.
I got my man, Chris Sawyer, Sports Information Director of Regent University. What's up, Chris?
Hey, Lee, how you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good, man. Today on After the Buzzer, we talk about some of the hottest topics in the world of sports. We got an excellent jam-packed show today. We're going to discuss the AFC NFC Championship. We're going to discuss Lamar Jackson if he doesn't win the Super Bowl. would you consider this season a failure? We're going to talk about the NCAA, if they should now go to athletes as employees. Got a special topic for Mr. Marvin Orange about Caden Proctor, the transfer from Alabama to the University of Iowa. I want to talk about Doc Rivers. You know, he's now the new coach of the Milwaukee Bucks and what that means. And so we're going to jump right into it. NFC Championship this Sunday. That's the late game. Chris, Detroit, San Francisco. Talk to me. Tell me who you think will win and the reasons why they will win and advance to the Super Bowl.
Well, first off, I'll tell everybody I want the Lions to win. I think it's a feel-good story. But when you really get down into the numbers, I look at this, Lee. We talked about this last week, I believe, defensive game. The 49ers are number one in the NFL in yards after contact. They're very hard to tackle. I think they're getting 95 yards per game after contact. And then you look at the Lions, they're actually very low in stopping the run and tackling. So I look at this as a defensive game. If the Lions can't stop the 49ers are going to win. We talked about this as well. You got to get Brock flustered a little bit. You can't give him time in the pocket. You know, can Hutchinson step up and help his team get in there and kind of get him off his rhythm. But for me, it comes down to the defense. I love golf. I love what the Lions are doing. I mean, feel good story. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm picking, I hate to say it, I'm picking the 49ers 34-24 in the game. I think it's going to be, they're going to get points on the board. But I think the 49ers will prevail just because of what they've been doing this year. And, you know, they haven't won it, I think it's since 94. So it's been a long time. We talk about Dallas all the time. It's been a long time for the 49ers as well.
Absolutely.
But I'm going with the 10-point win with the 49ers at home.
10 points. Okay, Chris. Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Orange, that's a big spread. But Mr. Orange, give me your thoughts about the game and what do you see as far as each team, what do they have to do to win on Sunday? And remember, guys, please, in the chat, comment. We'd love to hear your chats. Our guy Cassius is monitoring the chat, so he's going to, when you comment, he'll bring it to us live. But Marv, who do you think is going to win the game and why?
You know, I'm with Chris. I'm a Detroit homer. You know, born and raised Highland Park. A lot of people don't know that, so I'm rooting for the Lions. And I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think. I'm going to go with the Lions by 3. I'm going to go 30-27. The Lions need to do a couple things. I think if they can control the line of scrimmage and make Brock Purdy one-dimensional, I think that bodes well in their favor. Remember, the Lions, they haven't given up 70 yards to an individual rushing this year. Like they're second in the NFL, I think, Chris, in actually stopping the run. So they're good at the line of scrimmage. I think if you can put some pressure on Purdy, like Chris said, and fluster him a little bit, I think it bodes well for you. I'm a little worried about the Lions secondary. They've been getting gashed recently. I think that, you know, they're like 5th worst in the NFL, I think, against play action, something that San Francisco does well. But you take the play action out of the equation if you can stop the run. And I think that if they can get Purdy in a shootout, I think Goff is the better quarterback. I think Goff has more experience. He took the Rams to a Super Bowl. I think that he's more seasoned at this point. And look, let's not forget the Lions got probably the 2 biggest weapons on the field in Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs, Bama boy, by the record. So if they can get those 2 going, and San Francisco can't control them at the line of scrimmage, and Detroit can run the ball, control the clock, and control the game, I think it bodes well for them. And also, you know, Campbell he's built a system there. Those guys believe. I think they're the 3rd or 4th youngest team in the NFL. I don't think they don't know what they don't know at this point. They going in guns blazing, and I expect Detroit to actually win this game. So I'm going 30-27 Detroit. I think it'll be a great game, but let's go Lions.
I hear you. Great points. You guys hit it on the head. I think the line of scrimmage is the biggest thing in this game, right? Who controls the line of scrimmage and win? You know, Detroit has to get out fast. They have to score. They have to get San Francisco and keep San Francisco behind the sticks. San Francisco, for everything that they are, they're a running football team. And what they do on first down dictates a lot, because what you don't want Purdy is it's getting into situations where 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. So if Detroit, which they've done a great job this year of stopping the run, they can control the line of scrimmage and keep San Francisco in down and distances that are longer, then I think they have a very good shot at winning. San Francisco will, the outside, Debo's going to play. Debo's going to play. So those little quick bubble screens, which I call just an extension of their running game, really, you have to watch out for. That's how they move the football. And so stopping the run, making sure that the down and distance is long, that'll keep Detroit, and getting out fast. They need a lead because Detroit's strength is rushing the passer with Hutchinson. Their secondary is suspect, to your point, Mar. They have a suspect secondary. So if it gets to the deal where San Francisco can play action, they can dictate to their defense what they're doing, Detroit's going to be in a lot of trouble if that's the case. But if they can stop them on the first down, keep them in the 2nd and long, 3rd and long, Detroit has an excellent chance of winning. And vice versa, San Francisco's defense is suspect up the middle of the field, and that's where Laporta, the tight end for Detroit, that's where he makes his money. That's where he eats. So if they can, like I said, control the middle of the field and make sure that they're running the football, Detroit has a very, very good chance of winning. Green Bay showed them the blueprint. Run the football. Keep San Francisco defense in 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5, those situations where you can still play action. And then I think they have a very, very good chance of winning. I'm going to pick the upset as well. I like Detroit 27-24. Again, dictating the biggest upset. What a great story for Detroit. And so I think that Detroit can win the game. And to your point, Marv, a lot of people said that Purdy, and he did, led a comeback last week, right? But they didn't say that Green Bay dropped 2 interceptions. It's right in their hands.
Yeah.
Keep Purdy having to lead them down the field and make him the story, you'll win the game, Detroit. Because I'm still not convinced that Brock Purdy is a quarterback that plays well from behind. You just have to make sure that he can't dictate the game by using the running game to set up their play action, because that's how they win. You were getting ready to say something, Mar?
Yeah, and to your point, Lee, against Green Bay, I think Green Bay did give the blueprint. You saw them press the edges with Jones. And, it's hard to press the edges on San Francisco with Bosa and some of those guys that they have, but they did. And so what's going to be the game plan for San Fran? Because Detroit runs the ball well, and those 2 guys out of the backfield are explosive. Are you going to have to load the box to stop them? And if you do, like you said, to your point, the tight end, Jamison Williams out there, the Brown kid, like they got some explosive guys out on the edges in terms of Detroit. So it's going to be a chess match defensively, especially if Detroit can start to run the football. I'm going to be interested to see how San Francisco kind of combats that. But also to your point, yeah, I'm putting the ball in Purdy's hand. If I'm Detroit, I'm going all in. I'm going all in. I'm putting the ball in Purdy's hand. I'm going to make him be the reason that we lose the game. And I'm not convinced that he can do that either.
I'm not either. Chris, any
No,
comments?
I was going to say what Marv said, because both of you, Green Bay lost that game. The 49ers, to me, didn't win it. Green Bay lost it. And you're right, there's a blueprint on there and what you can do to Purdy. So I agree with both of you. I did pick the 49ers. Trust me, I'm with both. I want the Lions to win. I like that. That's going to, with our boys out, that's going to keep me interested in all this. But I think you've nailed it on the head. And Dan Campbell, he's got a great staff. They know what they're doing. And it's going to be interesting, though. And I'm the stat guy. I was looking at the defensive stats. And Marv, you're right. You called me on the the run stop. But it's going to be interesting on that. But if they get him out of his rhythm, then I think they've got a great chance. And you're right. Goff is a good quarterback, and I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. And the whole trade thing, and he went to a team that was terrible and has now become one of the great quarterbacks this year with a team that's just thriving. And I love it. It's a great story.
That's a big deal. Remember, they left him for dead in that trade.
Yeah,
they seriously. When Goff got traded from the Rams, they left him for dead and said, "This is pretty much what we think about you." And you're right, Chris. He is playing with a chip on his shoulder, and he's matured, and he's slowed down a lot in terms of the way that he processes the game. He's a pretty good quarterback now.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested. And also, I'm ready to see Aaron Glenn get that shot too as a head coach. I know we're not in that subject right now, but he's done a great job. He's a leader of men. I think that you're going to see Aaron Glenn kind of rise up the ranks here in the head coaching handles pretty soon.
Yeah. The better of the two quarterbacks, the one that's playing best is Jared Goff. It's all about the management of the game and the situations, because to all of our points, I think we all agree that if we're looking at the quarterback, we're going to take Jared Goff over Brock Purdy in this matchup. Again, comment. We're on Facebook Live. Comment, ISF Productions. Let us know what your thoughts are about the San Francisco-Detroit game. Let's quickly switch over to the AFC. The AFC. And Marv, I'm going to come to you first on this one. Baltimore, Kansas City, heavyweight matchup. Defending Super Bowl champions, defending MVP against what most people consider to be the MVP this year. How do you see it, and who you think will win?
I'm gonna take the two obvious, talking points and arguments out of this game, Lamar and Mahomes. I mean, they are who they are. I think we both know they're phenomenal at what they do. They're they're quarterbacks that are beyond reproach. But here's my key matchup during the game: is Kyle Hamilton and Travis Kelce. That's where I'm looking at all year. The Hamilton for this game, Hamilton is impressive. He brings a physicality. I think there's like a 0.5%, if I'm not mistaken, completion rate on him when he's guarding the slot. Like he's phenomenal, and he's going to be matched up against Kelce a lot of this game. Kansas City is not as explosive as they've been. They've got the drops. I think that might have something to do with Taylor Swift being at every game, but more so, I'm ready. I want Baltimore to win because I'm just tired of seeing Taylor Swift. No offense to the Swifties out there, but I'm tired of seeing Taylor Swift at the football games. But I think it's going to come down to the fact that Baltimore really has more ways to win this game. That's just my opinion. They run the ball a little bit better, even though the kid is starting to come on for Kansas City. But they just have more ways to win this game. I don't know if you load the box. It's going to be interesting to see what they do defensively. Are they going to load the box against Mahomes and turn into a game like that, take the run game away, or are they going to sit back? It's hard to say what you do with Mahomes, but he just doesn't have the weapons that he had before. So I'm going to roll with Baltimore. I think Lamar makes enough plays. He does enough things outside of the pocket to propel Baltimore, and they're healthy. They're a little bit more healthy than Kansas City. But it's an interesting thing too when you look at Kansas City. This is the best defense Mahomes has had. I don't think they've given up 30 points yet this year. So it's a battle of styles here. We know the quarterbacks are going to make plays, but I just think Baltimore has more ways to beat Kansas City. So I'm gonna go with Baltimore. I'm gonna go a field goal again, and I'm gonna go 27-24.
All right. To your point, Marv, Cal Hamilton's 6'4". He's
Yeah.
6'4", and he'll match up well with Travis Kelce. That's going to be huge because if you take Travis Kelce away, then you put that pressure on Kansas City's receivers. And we know the story all year of the dropsies that they had. Played better against Buffalo, but the dropsies that they had. So I agree with you. Chris, what are your thoughts on Kansas City and Baltimore? Reasons why either team wins, and your ultimate pick?
Well, first off, I got to say I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she could give a crap about Taylor Swift. So I'm happy. I'm happy to have that in my household. No, but again, I'm looking at the numbers again, guys. Steve Spagnuolo, ever since he's been the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, they've given up the most quarterback rushing touchdowns. I believe it's 26 in his tenure. We talk about Lamar, the way he can scramble, he can score. I think that's going to be a big thing. And then you look in the red zone. The Chiefs love to play man defense in the red zone. But the Ravens, on the other end, are scoring, I think, 61% of the time. So, again, to me, it comes down to the defense, once again, on how they can stop them. I agree with Marv. The Chiefs Mahomes doesn't have those weapons. And, again, if you get the times where he and Kelce are on and Kelce's scoring, but it's almost like that's what they rely on. But when you've seen Kelsey drop a lot of passes too over the past month or two. So I really think Baltimore, they're at home. I think they're superior. I think Jackson's just playing a heck of a year this year. MVP. I'm looking. I like Mar. Mar says 3. I'm going to say 10 again on both games. I think Kansas City is in it for a while, but I just think they're not going to be able to stop Lamar. When Lamar gets out, he can scramble. He's not like one of those quarterbacks we talked about, Purdy. If you get him out of the pocket, he's trying to figure out what to do. Lamar can make things happen, and I think that's going to be the difference in the game.
Yeah. Take away Kelsey, to me, is the biggest thing. Once you take away Kelsey, I think then you start to limit what Kansas City can do. And think about this. This will be the best defense Kansas City has played all year, point blank. Baltimore led the NFL in quarterback hurries and pressures. So they're going to put pressure. Clowney and them boys and Van Noy, they're not playing. They're going to put pressure in there. And the other thing I love about Baltimore's defense, Marv, they put pressure up the middle as well. They got them big boys up the middle who can pressure and push that pocket. So I think they're going to get after Mahomes. Now, Mahomes is going to make plays. That's who he is. But take away Travis Kelce, speed the game up. I don't trust Kansas City's receivers. I just don't. Rashee Rice, he's come on. But if you notice, both of Kansas City's touchdowns on Sunday were screen passes. They threw the screen pass to Kelce. They threw the screen pass. They're going to speed things up. Can Baltimore defend their screen game? That's going to be a key for them as well. But you look at the dominance on the defensive front. Their front 7 of Baltimore, I think they get after Kansas City, and I think Kansas City is going to have trouble in protecting Mahomes in this game. They're going to come after you. Mike McDonald's blitz package, they come after you. They speed you up. And then can Kansas City make the plays? When you flip it, Baltimore, the balance that they show, everybody thinks that Baltimore is a run team. They're really not. They're a run, and they set up the pass. But this year, Lamar has been passing to set up the run. He gets Mark Andrews back. Likely has showed that he's a dominant figure in the passing game. And the beauty of it is, with that offensive line and those backs, when you look at, and I look to see Dalvin Cook be a bigger part of Baltimore's running game, the explosiveness of him also with Justice Hill and the big back running through there. I think they run the football. Lamar hits Zay Flowers, and Odell Beckham hasn't had a great playoff. He didn't do much in that last game, but Beckham, he's going to have a spectacular catch or two in the game. So I like Baltimore as well. I like Lamar to get at least 75 yards rushing in this game, and I like Baltimore to win by 6 points, 30-24, and advance to the Super Bowl.
Here's another thing to look out. Here's another thing to look out for real quickly. To your point about up the middle pass rush for Baltimore. So I think over the last 5 games, if I'm not mistaken, playoff games for Mahomes, he's thrown no interceptions, nothing. He's only been sacked 3 times. That's a big stat. Like, if Baltimore can affect Mahomes and take him off his spot and turn him into something that he's not necessarily wanting to do against Baltimore, because they're athletic as heck out there, especially on the end Baltimore is. So that's going to be something to watch for. But also, I think we underestimate how good Kansas City's corners are. They probably got the 2 best corners in the league. So yep. It's going to be interesting. That's where I'm really watching at this game is how can Kansas City protect Mahomes, because Baltimore runs that 4-2-5. He brings exotic blitzes, and I think they're going to put pressure on him and make him a little uncomfortable. But that's the key for me, and that's what I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, they can get. Go ahead, Chris.
No, Marv makes a great point. That we talked about them going man to man in the red zone. I mean, they have a lot of trust in their corners. I mean, I like the point that Marv makes about that. So that's going to be an interesting thing to look at.
Yeah, that's why I think, but guys, this is why I think Lamar is going to have at least 75 yards passing, because when they lock their corners up, and Zay Flowers is a problem. Zay Flowers is a problem. When you lock those corners up, with those receivers and their back return, it's Lamar getting out the back door. And I think Lamar has a big game rushing as well. But to your point, the reason I like Baltimore, Marv, is they're going to attack more of the middle of the field with Andrews and Likely, which is where they're vulnerable. Kansas City has good corners. The safeties, however, that's where you can attack with Andrews, Likely up the middle, and so I like that. But certainly you're right about Mahomes. And the other thing that scares me about Mahomes in this is the one vulnerability about Baltimore's pass rush is a mobile quarterback sometimes gets out of the back door and run. And as you know, people, when they talk about mobile quarterbacks, they don't throw Patrick Mahomes in that equation, but certainly he should be in that equation because if he wasn't for his legs last year, they wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. And so that's something that Baltimore is going to have to be worried about. But I like the running game of Baltimore with Gus Evans to control the tempo of the game, to set Lamar up in play action. And I really think that the pressure that Baltimore is going to put on Mahomes is going to make the difference. Not so much that he's not going to make plays. It's about the speeding up of the game. And I like Baltimore again, 30-24. I want to shift gears and stay on the Baltimore Ravens because I really want to get Marv, you and Chris's opinion about this. Recently, yesterday, man, back on the episode of First Take, a question was asked, and it was asked if Lamar Jackson doesn't win the Super Bowl this season, will the season be a failure? I want you guys to listen to this video, and then I want to get your comments on it. Do we have the video, Cassius? If we don't, we'll just roll right into it. Marv, Lamar Jackson, the presumptive MVP of the season. He'll be one of 11 players, if he wins the MVP this year, that have multiple MVPs. Now, only 11 in the history of the NFL that have multiple MVPs. 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 821 yards rushing, 13-3 record. If he doesn't go all the way and win the Super Bowl, do you consider this season a failure for Lamar Jackson?
Absolutely not. No. I don't get it. I don't get the narrative about Lamar. And I think I saw the clip a little bit yesterday, and I think Ryan Clark even went as far as to say that it was more important for him to win the Super Bowl than what Doug Williams did,
Yeah.
which to me was just absurd. You know, you've got a national audience, but what Doug Williams did was basically, you know, dispel the myth that black men couldn't think, couldn't process information quick enough, couldn't lead NFL franchises to a championship. You know, from the famous quote from what was his name, Jimmy the Greek Snooker, whatever his name, Jimmy the Greek,
Yeah.
when
Snyder,
when he talked about you know the high thighs and the hips and you know what blacks were good at in terms of being athletes, but it wasn't quarterback because we couldn't process information quicker. I don't know why Lamar now all of a sudden holds this mantle of you know the hip hop culture and the you know the hood and whatever it is that gets used to describe him. Like it means more that he wins a championship because it's going to mean more to that community.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, Lamar Jackson's never been in trouble. Last time I checked, he was a Heisman Trophy winner. Last time I checked, Lamar Jackson went and bet on himself with his mom as an agent, which nobody else has done. Last time I checked, he's transcended football in the way that he plays and what he does. You mean to tell me that a Super Bowl is gonna now validate all the things that he's done and all the things that he hasn't done? Like it's absurd to me, and I don't know why they continue to move the goalposts and have this conversation because he maybe talk a little different, maybe because his hair is a little different, maybe from a cultural perspective he's different than what you're used to seeing, but he's still a great quarterback who's an NFL MVP about to be twice NFL MVP, has won a Heisman Trophy, has never been in trouble, has done everything that Baltimore has asked him to be, the face of a franchise. And I'm tired of the argument. I'm tired of even people making the argument about him.
Yeah. So what I want to do, I think we do have the video. I'd like for the audience just to see it in case they didn't get a chance to see it. So, Cassius, why don't you hit that video up so everybody can see what we're talking about, and then we'll get back into this topic. So volume is so. Chris, what is your thoughts about Lamar Jackson, and if he loses the Super Bowl, and on First Take they said not only he has to win the AFC Championship game, but he has to win the Super Bowl, or the season is a failure. Talk to me, Chris. What are your thoughts about it?
No, and I kind of touch on a little bit what Marv was saying, and what I think about when I think of Lamar Jackson. He does it so quietly. Like Marv said, he's not in trouble. He's not in the headlines. You don't see anything about him. When we're, again, being a Cowboys homer, you're talking about Dak, but all of a sudden people are talking about Lamar. Then you go look at what he's done. He just does it with poise. And I go back to quietly. He doesn't get in the headlines. It's no way it's a failure. This guy has come in. He has every year. He's been very good. He's leading his team. He's to me about to go hopefully to the Super Bowl. I don't think it's a failure at all. I mean, this guy has proven himself year in and year out. Like I mentioned in the last segment, he's not a guy that has to sit in the pocket. He can make things happen. And I think that's one of the things with Lamar that is really big. And I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, yeah. And I can't talk about the black-white thing because I'm not that, but Marv made a great point. You guys are talking about Doug Williams. I remember all the criticism with him, even Donovan McNabb. If you remember back in the day, there was some criticism about him. But Lamar, and I think it is, Marv put on point. His hair, he looks different. His hair, all this stuff. No, the guy is a great football player. He's great in Baltimore. He does a lot for that community. I mean, everybody loves him there. I've never heard a single bad thing about him. And I just, these guys get on here and they say it's a failure. I mean, one team wins the Super Bowl, guys. One team. And you never know what's going to happen. As they say, any given Sunday, you never know what's going to happen. But no, not a failure at all. The guy's been great, and I love watching him. I loved watching him last weekend, and I can't wait to watch him this weekend. And yeah. I'm not a Baltimore fan at all.
Before you go, Lee, I know you got a lot to say about this. Let's keep in mind too. Let's keep some perspective here. They always love to bring up his playoff record with only 2 wins, but we also need to bring up the fact that he was hurt. All right, yeah. Let's not act like he's ever been 100% when it came to this. So if you're gonna bash him for his playoff record, make sure that you give the whole picture of what it looks like. So I love when they bring that up, but they never bring up the fact that he's never been healthy in the playoffs until now, and I'm going to assume that we're gonna see the real Lamar Jackson tomorrow.
Absolutely. Marv, you hit it first and foremost. Excellent point about the relevancy of Doug Williams compared to Lamar Jackson. I mean, let's be real. Let's be real on it. That Doug Williams winning the Super Bowl moved the plight of the black quarterback exponentially ahead over anything that has happened after that. Because of the stereotypical bigotry opinions that were out there on the black quarterback at the time. So there you never can have another first. You understand what I'm saying? You can't have another first. So to say that I think that's totally off base from a historical perspective. Now let's parse Lamar Jackson with this. The thing that I always hearken back to is this. Earlier in the week, everyone on ESPN and all of these apologists for Josh Allen, Josh Allen is a phenomenal talent. He's a phenomenal talent. But he came up short in the divisional playoffs, and everybody came to his defense about, well, it wasn't him. The kicker missed the field goal. When he threw the ball short, when the receiver was wide open in the end zone, it was the tackle's fault because of that. When all great quarterbacks just slide to the right and make that throw. And I'm bringing Josh in it because no one said his season was a failure. The topic of his season being a failure never even came up. It was, how dare you explain or try to denigrate Josh Allen for what he's done. But Lamar Jackson, who has a 13-3 record, getting ready to have his second MVP. Josh Allen doesn't have an MVP. Who has done everything right, has not done anything wrong. You harken back to the comments, the racially motivated comments that Josh Allen made years ago about saying the N-word. We don't bring that up anymore because nobody wants to talk about it. So all of this stuff, when you wrap it all up and put it into a bowl, and then you start to think about, if Lamar doesn't win, he's a failure. But we never said it about Josh Allen. Let me give you a couple of stats. I have to bring stats in. Lamar Jackson has a better career completion percentage than Josh Allen. He has a better quarterback QBR than Josh Allen. But he's a failure, and Josh is the Superman, and Lamar's not. That's ridiculous. The other thing I want to point out, Marv, is this. They keep talking about him winning will uplift the culture for the inner city black quarterback and everything, right? When you turn on your TV on Saturdays and you look at all of these teams, all of the quarterbacks, 3/4 of them are black quarterbacks. When you go to games on Fridays and you see these guys, you see all of these young black men playing quarterback. See, the door has been kicked in because it's already advancing. When you look at the number 1 draft pick this year is a black quarterback. Probably the number 2 draft pick is going to be a black quarterback. All of this cultural awareness, it seems like they're not culturally aware more than the average masses because it's already been kicked in. You're putting undue pressure. Final point, Marv. Final point, then I want to hear from you and Chris again. When you look at Lamar Jackson, he's been in the league 6 years. It took Steve Young 9 years to win a Super Bowl. It took Peyton Manning 9 years to win a Super Bowl, right? Steve Young, it took Aaron Rodgers 9 years to win 6 years to win a Super Bowl. So you have all of these quarterbacks who have taken their time and progressed to that level of winning Super Bowls. But now if Lamar doesn't win it in his 6th year, it's a failure. That's ridiculous. That's an agenda that people have that they want to put out there, a narrative that they want to put out there. And shame on them. We can say that it's disappointing if he doesn't win the Super Bowl. Disappointment, yeah. A failure, absolutely not. Shame on those that are pushing that narrative because that's absolutely ridiculous. And so Lamar, do your thing. Continue to be the great young man that you are. And you said it, Marv, I think, about him negotiating his contract. Every step of the way, from the time he came into the league, he didn't want to do receiver at the combine. He negotiated his own contract when everybody says he's not going to get it done. He's not going to get it done. Highest paid player in the league. He's bucked the system every step of the way. And I think there's a narrative that people want to put out about Lamar Jackson. I'll come back to you, Marv. You have any follow-up with that?
It's the unconventional thing that scares the status quo, right? Like the NFL has been so status quo for many years. Remember, we don't have to go back that far. Remember Jerry Richardson when Cam Newton got drafted and what he said to him, that you needed to cut your hair to be the face of the franchise. And I think you make a great point, Lee. You turn the games on Saturday. University of Alabama's had a lot of black quarterbacks. There's black quarterbacks all over the place. The narrative that young black men can't be quarterbacks has been dispelled over and over again. So I do agree with you. I think that there is an agenda. There's an agenda to kind of keep this conversation because that's all that's left. He looks different. He's a little hood. He's a little whatever. That's all that's left because they've excelled in this position. They've led teams to championships on the collegiate level and also professionally. So that's the only narrative that's left. It's just he looks different. He does it different. So it's going to sell. So, you said it well, Lee. I just hope he goes out here and he does his job so everybody can shut up and he can go on and win a Super Bowl. And then, he's kicked another door in.
Absolutely. Chris, any follow-up?
No, I love what Mar said. Everybody can shut up. But let's take everything out. Let's just say you're looking, again, go back to the stats. It was against Houston. 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, 100 yards rushing, over 100 yards passing. I mean, yes, disappointing. Absolutely, if they don't win. Failure, no way. The guy is killing it. He's really one of the top quarterbacks in the league. And Lee, you made a great point. You can throw in John Elway there. I mean, think about it. Elway didn't. I don't think he won a Super Bowl for a while.
Elway didn't win a Super Bowl until his 10th year in the NFL, Chris.
Yeah. The way they judge these guys is ridiculous. And like I said, one team wins. There are a lot of great quarterbacks out there, but Lamar right now is standing out and playing very well. And I agree with Marv. I hope he shuts them up and kicks the door down. And I'll be pulling for him, even though I want the Lions to win. But I think I think Lamar is it's just ridiculous talk, and it's these guys get on ESPN and say this stuff, and sometimes you just scratch your head. You're like, what in the world are you talking about?
Yeah, that's because those narratives and those agendas have been talked through. Last point for me, Marv. You went to school in Alabama. You visited Louisiana. I love all of these places, right? People from Florida have a different little swag about how they talk and how they do, their dialect, but people in Alabama do too. You were there. Okay. People in Louisiana do. Sometimes some of my Louisiana friends, I have to do a double take just to know what they're talking about. So when we're talking about culture and talk, right. And people have been wearing braids since the beginning of time. Donovan McNabb had braids when he was in the Super Bowl. So all of these narratives, to bring these things back up now is my point and my issue, to bring when they've already been defunct years ago. And all of these kids are now playing quarterback. That to me reeks of this is an agenda as opposed to the truth. So we're gonna look for it and we're gonna see. Last point, of all the young quarterbacks, you talk about Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has a 48% winning percentage. You talk about Joe Burrow, he has a 58 winning percentage. Trevor Lawrence, a 40% winning percentage. Josh Allen, a 68 winning percentage. From the time Lamar Jackson came into the league in 2018 to 2003, he's won 75.3% of his games. From that time period, he's tied with Tom Brady for the highest winning percentage during that time frame, only to one person, that's Patrick Mahomes at 77%. I'll close my argument right there. Let's now reverse this thing a little bit. John Harbaugh, Chris. John Harbaugh recently signed with the Los Angeles Chargers. I want to ask you 2 questions. Is the Harbaugh hire a great hire for the Chargers? Why did you think he left? And then I'll throw a third one in there. Do you think Sharon Moore is the coach for the Michigan Wolverines?
I'll start with the third. Yeah, Sharon Moore. He's the coach. He's going to be the coach. No doubt about it. I've been reading a lot on it, and it was an easy decision for them. Harbaugh, we talked about this before, Lee. There's a lot of stuff going on, with his suspension and things like that. Then he wins the national championship. I think for him, it's he's ready to move on and get out of that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we talked about he's got family in LA. I mean, it makes sense to go to the Chargers. I've been reading a lot of stuff about Kellen Moore's out. He's got a bunch of guys he's looking at to be offensive coordinator. I guess it does make sense to me because what else are you going to do at Michigan now? And you have a little turmoil there. He doesn't have to recruit. I think he wants one more shot at the NFL. and try to do something. I mean, he went to the Super Bowl with the 49ers. But have you guys seen, like in my research on this topic, have you seen the articles about them talking about Kaepernick coming with him to do something? Have you guys seen that? Like, I think that's very interesting because he is the last coach to have Kaepernick. So I'm very curious to see where that goes. If that's just rumor, speculation, or does something happen on that end? But if for him, I think it's a good move. He did everything he could at Michigan. He won the Ohio State games. He won the national championship. But it's gonna be interesting he's got a decent core there. See if they can build him up.
I agree with you, Chris. And the Kaepernick thing is interesting. He had Kaepernick come and work out at the University of Michigan when he was trying to get back into the league. I think they still have a really close relationship. Kaepernick is, Marv, I think he's 33, 34 years old still, but has stayed in excellent shape. You never know how that's going to work. You still have to get ownership's approval. I don't know, but certainly if it's ever going to be a time to get Colin Kaepernick back in the league, this is the time to do it. And you never know. Marv, what are your thoughts on Harbaugh to the Chargers and Sharon Moore as the coach of the Michigan Wolverines? They sure didn't pay him like the regular coaches are getting paid. We'll jump into that in a minute, but go ahead, Marv.
I mean, what the hell else was Jim Harbaugh going to do? Stay at Michigan? No, he wasn't going to stay there. When he couldn't get that language added into his contract about immunity from the NCAA when punishment comes down and those level 1 infractions, he had no choice. I mean, we knew he was going to the NFL, and he's going to take the defensive coordinator and a couple other coaches with him. And the Sharon Moore hire was basically, was the blueprint of watching what happened to Alabama. They didn't want people to come in and pilfer all their players and take everybody because Jim Harbaugh left. So that was to keep some type of levelness to the program. That's why he got the job. It wasn't like he was the best candidate. What coach in college football will walk into that job right now? Because we know what's getting ready to happen. The NCAA just hadn't filed the allegations yet. It's coming. Maybe Michigan loses scholarship. Maybe they lose coach. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe they have to vacate wins. That's the biggest part that could come from it. But if I'm Sharon Moore, I guess you take it because it is Michigan. But you can't convince me, and maybe it's because I'm a Bama fan, but you can't convince me that Jim Harbaugh didn't know what was going on with Connor Stallion, what was going on. And if he didn't know, let's just say he didn't know, he had no idea what was going on in his coaching staff and in his program. I damn well guarantee you those assistant coaches knew. Somebody knew. Yeah, he wasn't doing it. And that's what the NCAA, they gonna put the hammer down. Jim had to leave. He couldn't get that in his contract. He was going to get fired when it kind of came out. He was going to let him go. I mean, it just stunk. So I knew he was going to leave. I think everybody else knew. And to say that his time at Michigan was great, I mean, it was good. I wouldn't call it great. I mean, he got a national championship, which is what he was supposed to do. But the writing was on the wall. Jim is out, and Michigan – watch the next few years. Sharon is going to be out. He's going to be suspended because they're going to find out that he knew what was going on too. Just watch how this plays out.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, that's a great point about Moore, Marv. I mean, he could be involved in it big time. I just pulled up the draft picks. I mean, the Chargers have the number 5 draft pick, so it sets up nice. And then you look at their orders throughout the next rounds. They've got a nice setup there, and for Harbaugh to come in, they may make some noise. But yeah, I'm really, being a college administrator, I'm very interested to see what does come out at Michigan and all that. And I agree with you, Marv. Those assistant coaches knew. I mean, there's so much more to it than we see right now.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things I'm gonna unpack. Them Bama people, boy, I tell you, they tough. They tough on people. Hey, Bama, they ain't never done anything wrong. Gene Jelks and all them guys, they ain't done nothing. Tough on people. That's what the Bama people do. All right, we'll get into that in future shows, but that was them Bama. Look, I agree, Marv. You don't dress up in the school's colors and shirts and all those things. That's planned. the level of planning. Hey, the NCAA has said he had no knowledge of it. Do we believe that? We don't know. But yeah, that's something. Now, I don't think Michigan was ever going to fire Jim Harbaugh. They offered him $12.5 million. They were going to put a kicker within his new contract to make him the highest paid coach no matter what. So there was an escalator in there. So I think Michigan wanted him to stay. So I don't know about the firing part of it, but what I will say is Harbaugh has always dipped his toes into the NFL. He's always done that. I think the only reason he went to Michigan was because he couldn't get along with the GM at San Francisco at the time. So he took the Michigan job. So I think he's always wanted to get back into the NFL. You know, the NFL is a different animal. You don't have to recruit. You know, you don't have this entire book of infractions that you have to be mindful of. If you get on the phone and call somebody at the wrong time, boom, you've committed an infraction. And so you just have to scout and know how to team build. And Harbaugh knows how to do that. That's one thing you have to say. He's a team builder. Jim Harbaugh has the 5th highest winning percentage of any coach in NFL history. Now, the sample set is 4 years. We're going to say that. But he has the 5th highest winning percentage. You know, the guy went to a Super Bowl, 2 NFC championships. He can coach. And I think for the Chargers, it's a great thing because he can build that team. Now, they have a lot of cap problems on the Chargers. A lot of players making a lot of money. So that part of it, you know, what do you do with Khalil Mack? You know, what do you do with Joey Bosa, you know, who's been hurt a lot? You know, they have a lot. And they started to purge some of that roster even this offseason. So those type of things he's going to have to deal with. But I do think it was an excellent hire for the Chargers. And I think, you know, I don't think next year, he could make the playoffs next year, maybe in contention for a wild card. But in the years to come, I think the Chargers are in business because I do like what Jim Harbaugh does. And Chris, to your point, I hope he does bring Colin Kaepernick back just to see what the man can do because we've never had the opportunity to see that because no other owner or team would give him an opportunity. Sharon Marv, he's in a tough position, man. He's in a tough position. Your point about keeping the continuity there so that recruits wouldn't leave, I think that's huge. I think you're spot on there. I think that was a hire to keep everything calm in the midst of maybe a little firestorm. So you hit that right on the head. My question is, in the games that they won, Marvin, and you and Chris chime in if you like, in the games that they won, it wasn't a very diverse offense. They did a lot of pounding and running of the football. And now the sample set is small, and certainly we want to give him a chance. He's been there with Harbaugh, and he's been the offensive coordinator, and they have thrown the football. But that sample set, you know, that second half, and I forget the team that they were playing. I think it was Penn State. He ran the ball 30 times in a row. You don't get away with that normally. So can he – we know that the players respect him. They're excited that he got the coaching job. But then you talk about the number one thing, Mark, we talk about this all the time, recruiting. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're going to have to see if Coach Moore can keep up the recruiting that Harbaugh did. That's going to be his chore. If he can, you know, Michigan is Michigan. It's a blue blood. He'll be successful. But that's a big if. Very similar to the way I feel about Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. But we'll get into that later today. Don't worry about that. We'll talk about that at some point. But those are my thoughts on Jim Harbaugh to San Diego and Sharon Moore staying in Michigan. Any follow-up, guys?
Spot on.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And I'll just say real quick for people out there listening, all three of us have come through the admissions careers in our time. Recruiting is hard. And
recruiting is hard.
It is hard. No matter, like you said, it's Michigan, but it's still hard. And you've got to be able to prioritize. You got to know how to manage it and all that. So that's going to be interesting to see. And I agree with you, Lee. Like, I think a lot of these guys do jump from college to the NFL because they don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, yes, they're dealing with millionaires, but They don't have to do, trying to convince these kids and the parents and everything you got to deal with. We deal with it on a daily basis, at our school, and we're a small school. You deal with parents, you deal with everything. And I think, that's why they jump.
Yeah, yeah. Very good point, Chris. It's totally different. It's totally different at the college rank, and that's a difficult chore. It really is, and so we'll see. NIL factors in. I don't know what type of collective that Michigan has developed, but those type of things will factor into Sharon Moore's success. I want to turn to Alabama now, and I have one, an Alabama, true man here who he loves all things Alabama. So we're gonna go to Alabama. Caden Proctor, number one ranked offensive lineman coming out last year, committed to Iowa, but somehow Alabama got him to come to Bama. And so after his first year, had some bit of ups and downs. I mean, he struggled a little early. He came on a little bit late, but entered the transfer portal, and now he's going back to Iowa, his original team he committed to. But it was interesting. He brought up the fact that he was contacted by Iowa during the season. He said, to check on him, whatever the case may be. And I wanted to ask first Marv, because Marv is an Alabama guy, and I think he has some insight on this as well. Is that tampering, or is that what goes on every day? Talk to me, Hall of Famer.
I mean, it's damn sure tampering. I liken it to you got a friend who likes a girl, right? And he's in the friend zone, and he's always talking about the boyfriend she got and how he no good, and blah 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 blah, whatever the case may be, just waiting for the time to pounce, right? That's kind of what Iowa did. The kid struggled all year, man. He was out of position. It was tough for him playing where he did, especially in the SEC with the quick twitch guys that you have rushing on the edge. Like, he struggled all year. He was bad. And I think if you'd ask any Alabama fan, he's a good kid, but he was ready to go. I think that no Alabama fan is really sad to see him go because he struggled. He's probably played out of position as well. But yeah, that's what Iowa did. They saw him struggle, and that's the opening, right? That's the opening that you see to tell him that he's still good, to tell him we still want you. You still great. You're the best thing to us. If things don't work out there, you got a home here. When you hear that all year and you know that you got that in your back pocket, they said he was a little bit homesick, which I found out was true as well. But I think the biggest thing is that the kid just really, really struggled this year, and he looked really, really out of sorts. But Iowa did.
You think he's a guard? He should have played guard instead of
I
tackle,
think,
Mar?
yeah, I think he should have played guard, and I think you may see him move there when he goes to Iowa. I mean, their system fits him a lot better. The Big Ten probably fits him a lot better. Probably where he should have went from the start. But he just was really, really out of sorts in the SEC. He got Jalen Milroe killed back there. So I'm okay with it. But yeah, it was tampering. They stayed in contact with the kid because they knew he was struggling, and they knew that Alabama fans are ravenous, and he gonna hear about it. And it's a tough place to play college football. And I think that Iowa just suits him better, and it's a good move for the kid. I'm not gonna bash the kid, but Iowa knew what they were doing. They stayed in his ear because they knew they would have a chance to get him, and especially when Nick left. I mean, it was a done deal at that point. So good for the kid. Definitely tampering.
He's originally from Iowa. Is that his home state?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Foot speed was the thing that, to your point, playing tackle, he got beat a lot, especially early. He got beat a lot around the edge by these fast ends that played in the SEC. Could he have lost 25, 30 pounds and got that? Because he's a big guy. He's a big guy.
He's a big guy. Lee, most of y'all know, like, some things you can't teach, and he just didn't have quick feet. I mean, he could have got a little quicker, I'm sure, through some of the, some weight room work and some speed work, but I just think he played out of position, and he just got exposed. He got exposed last year.
Yeah, Chris, you're an administrator. You're in the athletic department, and I'm interested to see what you have to say about it. Because do you feel that was tampering? Let's say that it was tampering, and Sharon Keaton says, thanks Sharon for the comment. Great show. We had a little technical difficulties getting everybody's comments on, but we're back up. So please continue to send those comments because we love to hear from you. We want to hear about any of the topics we covered, the Lamar Jackson, your thoughts about the playoff championship games, Jim Harbaugh, and even the topic we're talking about now as far as is it tampering. But Chris, you're an administrator. You're in the athletic department. Would you consider this to be tampering by Iowa to Mr. Proctor?
Well, it is tampering. And first, I'll say I agree with Marv. I mean, the kid's going to be better off at Iowa. But if you go with the NCAA bylaws, I mean, this is the legal stuff now. You cannot, and I have it pulled up right here actually for this segment. You can't contact anyone at an NCAA school or an NAIA school, which are four-year institutions as well, without obtaining written permission from that institution's athletic director or someone they designate. You know, we have compliance officers and stuff at our school and at other schools. So that's tampering. It states it out right there. And what really came to light was when he made the comment, and that's what's really raising the media, their radars went up like, whoa, hold on, red flags. And I think that's the big thing right there is what was Iowa doing? Yeah, I mean, I understand what they were doing. Marv made it. He wasn't doing great at Alabama. Iowa wanted him. It's his home state. So they were keeping on him. But, we don't all love the NCAA and what they do, but I mean, they do have the bylaws and you have to follow them because we just talked about Michigan and some stuff they've probably done. Hell, Colorado just had 11 violations they had to self-report. So, I mean, you have to follow that stuff. So it's absolutely tampering. I know in our situation at the schools I've been in, if we found out a coach was talking to one of our players during the season and there'd be a phone call from our AD immediately to not only the institution, but to the NCAA. So I think, Iowa's got to be very careful on that. And, while we may not like the rules, you still got to follow them because the school's going to get in trouble. But that's, it's definitely tampering, and it would make us upset if that was happening to us. After the season, fair game. Do what you got to do.
And Sharon Keaton said they all do it. That's the good old boy system.
That is true. She's right. Yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah. How many other schools do it that, we just happen to know because of his quote, but I'm sure it's happening all the time.
And because it was done in Alabama, you know how people feel about Alabama. Go on and raid Alabama. Do what you want to do to Alabama. That's how it is.
I mean,
it's so good to have Marv. It's so good to have Marv back on the show.
Yeah, it's good to have him back. But this Alabama Sharon, she said roll tide. I mean, Sharon, I was liking your comments, but that roll tide got to me. But this is what I'll say. What if there you go again? What if players from other schools were contacted? Because Marv, I don't know, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, if they specified who contacted them. What if it was players from Iowa's team, Chris, Marv, and not coaches per se? Would you still consider that tampering?
Now, I'll let Marv go, but I'm going to tell you, the bylaw says an athletic staff member or representative of the institution.
Right.
So
correct.
I don't know if you want to consider a player representing the institution. We'll get into that if they're going to be employees later on in another segment. Okay. But that's what the bylaw says right there. But I'll defer to Marv on that.
Well, what do you think? Because I think y'all call players all around the country. But go ahead, Marv. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, but that's not how it go down. Especially, I'll take it back to some of my playing days. Like you don't reach out unless you got a personal relationship with that dude. You're not reaching out to nobody. Saying, "Oh man, keep your head up." That's just not how it works. Now, if a player was doing that, I guarantee you he was getting, some words from a coach to say, "Hey, call your boy or call him up, see how he doing, tell him he can." That's how that went down. No player is calling him being like, "Hey man, I know you're having a hard time. We here for you in Iowa." That's not how it goes down. And they was tampering their asses off, and they know they were. But it was okay because it was Bama. They came in and just pillaged all our roster, but we'll be okay.
Well, yeah. Y'all in rebuild mode. But look,
Oh
hey,
no, absolutely not. Absolutely, don't do that. No, we're not.
well, we gonna see. Look, if a coach did it, it's certainly tampering. I mean, let's be honest about it. We're talking if it was coaches from the staff. To your point, Chris and Marv, the kid saying it is the phenomenal thing. I mean,
Right.
why would he? If you're transferring to this, why would you even bring it up? I mean, that kind of floored me in itself. But yeah, I mean, I didn't understand that one. But hey, it is tampering if there were coaches reaching out to him because look, you have your own team to worry about. And why are you going way to Tuscaloosa to check on this guy because he was having a couple of bad games, Amar, probably, and to see if he was, if that situation wasn't something that he wanted to be a part of going forward. So, yeah, I would agree with both of you. We're going to switch it up a little bit. Charlie Baker, he is the president of the NCAA, has put a proposal together. He calls it the D1 proposal. And within his proposal, a certain thing came up. Should college athletes be employees of the institution that they participate at? And Marv, we've talked about this before, but I thought it was a great thing to rehash. I want to go to Chris first because he is in administration. Chris, what are your thoughts about it? Uh, how do you think that would work? We know there are some Title IX ramifications. I'll cover that in a minute. But what is your thoughts on college athletes? And this would include in President Baker's proposal, for Title IX gender equity, male and females being employees of the college.
Yeah, I still struggle with it a little bit, Lee. We've talked about this in the past. When you're an employee, now we're talking benefits. Depending on what state you're in, you may have labor unions. I know a lot of the Northeast has Massachusetts, and those states have labor unions, pensions. And then when does your, are you on a contract? When does your time end as an employee of the school? Do you get a 401k? Just things like that. I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around it. Now, do I agree that they should have some compensation? Absolutely. I know the NIL's in there, but again, that benefits some schools and not others. I think, Lee, you made a point, I think it was last week, about somebody buys the number 5, of some school, but they're buying it because that player's wearing it. Those things, like you look at, not to bring up wrestling, but merchandise sales. A lot of those wrestlers get money for merchandise sales. I've looked at the proposal. I'd like to see more because I don't know how they would do it, and would it benefit some schools and some schools would struggle with it. I just don't know how it would work. And as employees, you have HR. I mean, now what if a coach makes you mad? Can you go to HR and file a complaint? There's just, I know it sounds stupid, but there's just so much. There's just so much to it. It's complicated. Employees, I'm not sure, but compensated, yeah. And I hate the argument. Well, you're getting a full ride. Well, I don't think they understand, and Marv knows because he played it. What you go through on a daily basis, besides your class and time management and being on the road and doing all those things. It's tough. At our school, we give our kids a per diem when they travel to try to get them a good meal, what they want. But yeah, I'm just curious. Honestly, I can't wrap my head around it right now. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I want to give you a couple of facts before Marv chimes in because I'm very interested to see what Marv has to say about it. And we definitely want to hear from the audience about their thoughts about should college athletes be employees of the school. So please start sending in your comments because that's one that we want the public. But Marv, one of the things that he's proposing in the D1 project is to allow universities to offer their student athletes any educational benefits that they deem appropriate. That's one thing. They also want to allow D1 schools to enter into name, image, and likeness agreements with their players. And this is one I certainly want you to comment on. They want to create a new subdivision in the NCAA Division One that would allow the schools with the most resources to invest in their student athletes. So a subdivision within Division One, and then some of the parameters, just so that we all are talking about the same thing. Where, of course, you had the Title IX implications with the male and female. So the universities would have to invest at least $30,000 per year into an enhanced educational fund for at least half of their student eligible athletes, male and female. And then peer institutions within that new subdivision could create their own rules surrounding scholarships, roster limits, recruiting, transfer, and NIL. Basically what they're saying, Marv, we're going to put all these rich schools, they're going to be separate from Division One, they're going to make their own rules, and we're going to let them play, and we're going to let them pay their players. What are your thoughts, Mr. Basketball?
I mean, the only part of that I agree on is the subdivision part. I think that's where it's going. I mean, there's 8 to 10 schools every year that realistically win a national championship. Let's just be real, and because they have the most resources, they have the most money, they have the most reach. Every year the NIL is great, and I love what it's created for the ability for players to get paid. But you're still only 8 to 10 schools that realistically have a shot at winning every year. Now, from an employee standpoint, hell no. If I'm a college athlete, would I want to become an employee of the university? I mean, it's just does, especially in today's climate when you've now been given the ability to transfer however many times you like. You've been given the ability to make money off your name, image, and likeness. So, what you get as a college athlete is what? Cost of tuition. You get room and board. You get what? Catastrophic injury insurance. You get health insurance. All of that stuff is part of your scholarship to said university. Now you can also transfer as much as you want. You can also make money off a name, image, and likeness. Now you become an employee of a university. Do you think that that's still in place? Do you think contractually a university is going to allow you to, hey, say for instance, they say, hey, we don't like that you're endorsing, TikTok or a video or a barbecue spot because of the way that they inhumanely kill animals. I don't know, whatever the case may be. Contractually, but let's be real. Contractually, it becomes a nightmare for college athletes because the university now is going to start to take some of that control back. Also, how are college athletes going to form a union? Like people are always talking about a union. Do you know much how much union fees are for professional athletes? I don't think a lot of people understand how expensive it is and the fees that they pay to have a union for their best interest. Now, the blue blood quarterback might be able to afford that, right? But the 50th guy on the bench can't afford that. Like, it's just not going to happen. And Chris, to your point, what about from an employee standpoint? What about taxes? We're not even talking about that. If you become an employee of said university, like your scholarship right now, scholarship and all the stuff that you garner from being a college athlete, they're not taxable. But once you become an employee, all of that becomes taxable. Your scholarship, the benefits that you receive from it, an 18 to 22-year-old is going to be able to navigate that. Are we for real? So if I'm a college athlete today, there is no way. Now, when I was back in school, it might have been a good deal. Could have been a good deal when I was back in school. But the way that they're allowing players to navigate transferring to name, image, and likeness, social media presence, all the things that you have at your disposal now, it doesn't make sense. But if I'm the NCAA, heck yeah, I'll try to find a way to make them employees because now I can start to garner some of that control back that I've started to lose. And all the guys who are making money off these athletes, that's a good deal for them because they're going to have the power again. Because these kids, they can't afford to have the power that professional athletes can. It's a different ball game. So no, hell no.
Lee, I know you're chomping at the bit, but no, Marv just nailed it. He talked about the transfer portal. I mean, that's the thing. You're an employee. I mean, what kind of obligation do you have to that school? I mean, it would be better to be like an independent contractor because that's where a lot of people are doing today. Being an independent contractor, you don't get that. But Marv, you're right. I got an 18-year-old and 17-year-old that work now. They both graduated high school. They're working. Boy, did their eyes open when they saw taxes come out of their paycheck. and how much it was. And you're right, that's a whole different thing I didn't even think about. But yeah, great
Wait,
points, Mark.
there's one more, Lee, before you go that
Go ahead,
none of
Mark.
us
Go
have
ahead. Go
talked
ahead. I'm
that
loving
nobody
this.
talked
Go ahead.
about is buyouts. What if you become an employee of said university, right? Coaches have buyouts. For instance, when Alabama was trying to find a coach, Dabo had a $20 million buyout. Dan Lanning, all these coaches that raised the price of their contracts had all these buyouts that Bama had to pay to bring them on. So if you want a contract if you're an employee of a university and now you're not happy with where you are, it's a buyout involved. You think schools are just going to let kids leave? Do schools just freely allow you to go out there and test the market the way? Nah, there's money involved in that. You can't just leave now.
All right.
Contractually, you out. Unless this school want to pay us $10 million to get you off this roster, you might as well go on and get comfortable because you're an employee here. So there's so much to this. That's why I tell kids, no, they don't want it. Stay away from it. You got it good right now. Just build on it.
Lee's about to
Great,
come out of
great.
his seat over here. I can see
No,
it. He's
no,
ready
no.
to go.
I love this. I love this. I love this because there's no right or wrong answer. But I'll just I'll say a couple of things. Right now, all those kids that are getting NIL deals, they have to pay taxes on that money. Right now, that those contracts that they're negotiating, because it's not with the school, it's with the collectives and with individual organizations. They have to pay taxes on that money. So
But
they have to
they can
earn that
freely
right now.
negotiate it.
Now,
They can
say it
freely
again.
negotiate that contract, though. They can
Absolutely,
freely negotiate
absolutely.
that contract, right?
Absolutely. Now, absolutely. Now, I do not like the portion of what we read about the NIL. Look, players should be able to negotiate their own NIL deals. I don't want the school handling my money. If I want to go sign with Gatorade, let me sign with Gatorade. Long as I don't use the school's name and likeness, let me sign with Gatorade myself. So I don't want them controlling that. I definitely don't want that. I said a few years ago, Marv, I've always said that the NCAA would have been smart 5 years ago to start paying athletes because of how large these budgets are, the revenue that's generated by these conferences. I think over the next 7 years, the Big Ten schools are going to get roughly $120 million a year, every year, from the TV contract that they're getting. They could have paid these players. You have an 85-man roster, $50,000, and they would have been fine. That's only $5 million of their budget, $5 to $6 million. But they didn't want to do it because they kept hollering student athlete. Shame on them. You lost the opportunity. Now, I'm sure that the rules, y'all made some great points that when they developed the subdivision, they would combat some of these rules, because certainly you wouldn't be able to transfer at will. Right now, hell, I'm an at will employee. I can transfer tomorrow. If another school offers me a vice president position and pays me more, I'm gone. So I could do that. So transfer portal, whatever the case may be. I just don't think that, and I agree. I actually agree with you, you guys, that at this time in space, it's too late for that. I do agree with that, but that's what he's pushing because they want to combat this name, image, and likeness that Congress won't take up. This is really what this is about. They wanted Congress to set some rules. They did not set those rules, and now the NCAA is scrambling to see how we can get some control over it. But employees, I think that boat has came and gone. You had opportunities to do that, and you could have shaped all of this within name, image, and likeness, all of that within there, but you didn't do it. And so I just think putting that genie back in the bottle would be very, very difficult to do. Any follow-up, Chris Amar?
Well, you kind of painted a broad stroke here with the paying players $50,000, and Chris probably can speak to this too, but Title IX. So you're paying a football player $50,000. Are you paying a swimmer the same thing? Are you paying a
Well,
soccer player the same thing? Are you paying because that's where the argument started to come into play. Like we know the revenue generating sports, right? But is that how that works? He gets 50 grand, but you get 2.
Yeah, because well, let me say this, Mar. If you want to say uh uh sports, if you're generating revenue, then we balance your budget within your operating budget within your sport, and you get paid out of that operating sport. I don't think that violates Title IX. If soccer only generates $100,000 in revenue, we put that line item into the soccer budget for salaries,
So
and we pay them out of those salaries. That component of it, I don't think is against Title IX because you are paying them based off of the operating budget within those sports. But
you know what that
certainly,
does to those sports. You know what
say it
that's going to
again.
do to those sports, right? You know that's what's going to happen to those sports if that's the way that you look at it. They'll be eliminated because they're
Well, we'll kick
operating.
you a few dollars
They
because
wouldn't be able
we'll
to.
kick you
They
a few
wouldn't be able
dollars
to
because we
exist.
love our sport. We love our fencing team. We love our backgammon team. We love our rowing team. So we'll give you a few dollars, but you're not going to get as much as my football players who are out there playing a totally different sport. And we're going to balance our budget with the revenue that's brought in from football. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, if you want to have a better fencing team, hey, let's go out and have more fencing competition. I don't know, but you have to you have to balance that. So, but I agree. You're right about the Title IX implications, but that is a way to combat it. We're going to pay you based off of that our operating budget and the expenses, and we will have a line item and within those operating expenses for salaries and benefits. I'd love to hear from our audience before we sign off about this topic because I think it's a huge topic that's not going to go away. Chris, I think you had something else you wanted to say, Chris. If you want to chime in again,
No. It's a great conversation.
you were going to
But
tell us about y'all's fencing team. I think you were
yeah.
going to tell
Well,
us.
no, our backgammon team, man, 10-0. No. But the so-called, the Olympic sports, they don't bring in that revenue. And those are the ones. I was at a school, the school I was at last year, we did away with our tennis teams. It just doesn't, budget wise, a lot of stuff just, doesn't work. And that is Marv, both of you guys, I love the back and forth with you because it is a huge topic. Like, how do you do that with those kids? And like swimming, I think Marv brought swimming. Those kids get no recognition and have, not in the schools I've been at, even though we have them, they're the ones that are begging for publicity. But you're right. Football generates it. Basketball generates it. Some of the baseball, some of the bigger schools, as Marv talked about, that have chances, their baseball teams generate it. But yeah, it's interesting. And again, with the Title IX, there's a lot in there, but it's stuff like, I'll give you an example. Like, we're starting men's volleyball. We're announcing it this week, but now you got to look at Title IX implications on starting a men's team and stuff like that. So that would play into this on how you do all that. But yeah, I think it's gonna it's interesting. It's gonna be a topic for a while now to see where we go with this. And I'm curious. I've been reading about it a lot, so I'll definitely be following it. And I know we'll talk about it on later shows as well as it progresses.
Yeah, Marv, I know the University of Alabama's kickball team is one of the top ones in the country. So y'all would not want to get rid of that. I know that. But what are your closing thoughts about should athletes be as employees for the president of the NCAA? Any closing thoughts on it?
I've made it pretty clear. I think it's a bad deal for players. I think they need to run from it as far as they can and keep it the way that they've made a lot of strides here over the last few years. Something I thought you would never see as a college athlete. So I would stay on that track and just stay away as far as you can from becoming an employee.
Yeah. Cassius, any closing comments from the audience as far as talking about the college athletes being employees of the college that we want to talk about? Just more money for the colleges. You're right, Marv. I think
They seem to like
Alabama
Marv today, Lee.
Well, I mean, if I believe she went to Alabama, I'm not sure, but I believe she's an Alabama alum.
So Sandra Keaton is going to have to come on the show. I know her personally. I know who she is. And she has somebody that we know, Coach Teddy Keaton, who was not a head football coach at Clark Atlanta. That's his mother. So she's a roll
Okay.
tider all day, every day. So y'all watch your mouth when it comes to Sandra Keaton.
Okay, Miss Keaton, I love you. I love you, Miss Keaton. Teddy's one of her great friend. But Miss Keaton, we can get you another university if you want. I can help you with that. Hey, look, this is how we do it every week. We want you, please like the show, comment, please comment. We want to take this journey with you. Subscribe to the show and to the ISF network, production network. We want to take the ride with you. Please tell a friend about us. I'm Lee Jones. That's the Hall of Famer, Mr. Basketball, Marvin Orange. This is our Chief Administrator, the Sports Information Director for Regent University, Mr. Chris Sawyer. We thank you. We appreciate you. We do it every week at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. Please join us. Have a wonderful and blessed day.